Hello viewers, welcome to this series of lectures on spectroscopy. Today in our second part of vibration spectrometry or spectroscopy, I will be talking to you about the nature of spectrum and polyatomic molecules. Basically, we will try to build on what we did earlier and try to continue from there. And as usual, our session is planned as follows. To begin with, I will try to give you a review of what we did in the previous session so that we know the foundations of this. And then thereafter, I will talk about the nature of spectrum from an harmonic oscillator model. Because basically in the previous session, we worked in detail about the harmonic oscillator, and then we did introduce something on anharmonicity and anharmonic oscillator, but we have to talk about the nature of spectrum which comes from there. Thereafter, we will see that if I extend my argument from a diatomic molecule to polyatomic molecules, what kind of things happen there. So, how do we talk about the different possible modes of vibrations for polyatomic molecule and what kind of spectra do we expect from there. While we talk about the vibrational modes of polyatomic molecules, we will try to see how do we calculate the vibrational modes for a given polyatomic molecule depending on the number of atoms it has, and also we will try to see how do we ascertain whether a given mode of vibration is vibrationally active or not, or in other words, it is IR active or not, whether it is going to absorb IR radiation or not. That is what we are going to do there. And then we will see that despite all this, we will find that the actual spectrum which we get is much more complicated. So, where do this additional vibration band come from? So, we will try to explain the origin of such additional bands over there, and towards the end we will try to sum up what we do today. Okay. So, let us make a beginning by quickly recalling what we did in the previous session. We started with discussing the how do we model molecular vibration. That means, we started with talking about a harmonic oscillator, and in the process we stated and analyzed the results of quantum mechanical treatment of a harmonic oscillator, wherein we got an energy expression and the corresponding energy level diagram, the kind of selection rule, nature of spectrum, that all we have covered in the last session. Then we also showed towards the end that this harmonic oscillator model is inadequate because it does not truly represent the oscillatory behavior of a diatomic molecule, because our molecule is not harmonic, because if it is harmonic, it is not going to dissociate, which it does. So, we have to bring in some kind of anharmonicity, and that if you consider an harmonic model whereby instead of taking our kind of a parabolic kind of a potential energy expression, we used Morse potential, and we realized that by doing that our energy expression changes, the energy level diagram changes, the selection rule changes, and there are a lot of expressions which were different from what we had in case of harmonic oscillator. So, we compared these two things, that means what kind of expressions we get in harmonic oscillator and anharmonic oscillator, what is its significance. So, let us try to recall that when we considered a harmonic oscillator, what kind of energy level diagram we had. You remember that we had series of energy levels which are equally spaced. The first one, V is equal to 0 level, was at half omega oscillation, and this was at 3 by 2, 5 by 2, 7 by 2, 9 by 2, 11 by 2, and so on and so forth. That means they are equally spaced. And also we had that our vibrational quantum number changes by 1 unit as a selection rule, which led to a spectrum which consisted of only a single line. So, that is the kind of thing we observed if we consider a molecule to be behaving like a harmonic oscillator. Thereafter, when we moved on to an harmonic oscillator, by considering Morse potential, we realized that there are a lot of changes happening there. And the two things which I want to bring home again, the two significant things are that firstly, our energy level diagram becomes different. The energy levels are not equally spaced as before, they get closer and closer as V goes higher. That is one. And secondly, what we had was that our selection rule now becomes different. It becomes that delta V is equal to plus minus 1, plus minus 2, plus minus 3, and so on and so forth. That is, the vibrational quantum number can change by any magnitude, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any number of units. That means there are, what we expect is a large number of bands or signals are expected here. If I am considering an harmonic oscillator, that means I am expecting the spectrum of a molecule to be highly complicated, because there are so many signals I am expecting. But what actually happens is, formally when you do an experiment, we find that we observe only a few such transitions there. Let us see what do we normally observe for a diatomic molecule. We find that there are three kind of things which are likely to be observed. The first one is called as a fundamental, that means the transition from V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 1 level is called as a fundamental vibration, that is observed very significantly. In addition to that, we have something called as first overtone, which corresponds to a transition from V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 2 level, and a second overtone from V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 3 level. Now, why so? The reason for that is because what we just said, that vibration quantum number can change by any amount, that is one, and secondly energy levels are slightly differently placed now. What happens is, though the transitions in principle can change, that means selection rule permits transition of high delta V changes, but what happens is, what is found is that the transition probability for such kind of transition happens to be very poor. That means maybe it is very close to 0. That means though the selection rule permits their happening, but they are not observed because our transition probabilities are very low. That is one reason. And secondly, as we know that we mentioned in earlier sessions here, that is our vibration energy levels are far apart, and if I apply Boltzmann distribution kind of equation, we find that for most of the system, the molecules will be in V is equal to 0 level. The population of V is equal to 1 will be very, very small as compared to V is equal to 0 level. For all practical purposes, we can say it is not populated at all. The population is so very low. That means effectively all transitions will be originating from V is equal to 0 level. So, that means we will have V is equal to 0 to 1, 0 to 2, 0 to 3, and 0 to 4 probably will not be observed because the transition probability will become close to 0. So, primarily I am expecting 3 signals over there. Let us take this expression further and see how do we locate where are these bands going to come, because we know that position of a band in the spectrum has to be determined by the energy level difference. So, if I look at V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 1 level, what I can do is I can find the delta E for this by taking energy of V is equal to 1 level and subtract from this the energy of V is equal to 0 level. When I do that, I find the expression comes out to be omega E 1 minus 2 x e. So, that means this is the location, that means omega E 1 minus 2 x e is the location of my fundamental. We will talk more about it as we proceed. As regards that, if I look into first overtone was when I have transition from V is equal to 0 to V is equal to 2 level. When I do that, do a similar exercise, that means E V 2 V is equal to 2 minus E V equal to 0. If I do this, I find it comes out at 2 omega E 1 minus 3 x e. Similarly, the second overtone will come at 3 omega E 1 minus 4 x e. So, they are the places where do I expect these signals to appear in the spectrum. Let us look at a spectrum. This is an IR spectrum of carbon monoxide, a simple molecule. What you find is the fundamental observation, that means this V is equal to 0 to 1 level transition is observed at 2143 centimeter inverse. This fine structure is because of rotation. We will talk, maybe it is not part of our curriculum, but this is just basically because of the simultaneous rotational transitions accompanying the vibration transition. And what I wanted to bring home here, the context here is that this fundamental vibration is observed, and we also have what is a first overtone which is located at 4260 centimeter inverse. We find that the first overtone is located at a frequency slightly less than double. That means overtone is not double the frequency, it is slightly less than that, and the reason for that you can rationalize in terms of the energy expression. We know that as the levels go up, so 0 level, 1 level, 2 level. So, 1 level is slightly less than what was there in the harmonic oscillator case, 2 is still less than that. So, they get closer and closer. So, it is not double. That means V is equal to 0 to 2 level transition is not double of 0 to 1, it is slightly less than that, okay, because that XC term will come into picture. So, that is a kind of an experimental observation we have with us. Let us move further. One more thing which is probably needs to be taken note of is that, as I just mentioned, that the population of energy levels is not significant beyond V is equal to 0 level. But if I give certain amount of energy, or maybe I can do the measurement at high temperature. When I do it at a high temperature, what happens is that V is equal to 1 level becomes significantly populated, and what we can have is, we can have transitions from V is equal to 1 to V is equal to 2 level, because they were otherwise not observed. But now, because at high temperature V is equal to 1 level becomes reasonably populated, and then we can think of a possible transition from V is equal to 1 to 2, and such a transition will be located at, if we just do the same exercise, V is equal to 2 minus E V is equal to 1, if I do that, I find it is located at omega E 1 minus 4 x E. Such bands which are observed at high temperature are called as hot bands. This is very important observation, because this is something which we need to know of. Okay. What we have done is, we have seen that if I consider a molecule to be behaving as an anharmonic oscillator, so what kind of spectrum I am getting, where do what is the location of different signals I am expecting there. This is all we talked about in the context of a diatomic molecule. Now, if I have a polyatomic molecule, a larger molecule, say carbon dioxide, water, benzene, cyclohexane, you take any molecule we think of. So, in such cases, what kind of spectra do we expect? What are different vibrational modes there? Because a diatomic molecule is only, by default, there is only single vibration possible, that is all. It can vibrate only in one way, nothing else. But if I go to the polyatomic system, then there are many more vibrations possible there. So, a polyatomic molecule executes a number of vibrations. Since it has got number of bonds, so these vibrate in wide variety of ways. I will not get into details of how do they vibrate, but I will try to see that how do I compute how many modes of vibrations are there for a given polyatomic molecule. Let us look at that. Now, to make a case for that, let us talk about, suppose I got a simple molecule, a polyatomic molecule, and let me see that how many possible degrees of freedom it has. In general, any molecule having n atoms have 3n degrees of freedom. That means, if a molecule has got 3 atoms, I need at least, there are 9 degrees of freedom the molecule can have. Okay? So, that is the meaning of this statement here. Now, out of these 3 degrees are used for translatory motion, because someone talking about a molecule here. A molecule can be here, it can move in anywhere in the 3-dimensional space. So, it can move along x axis, along y axis, along z axis, or anywhere in between. So, I need 3 degrees of freedom to ascribe or to describe the translatory motion of the molecule. So, out of 3n, 3 modes of vibrations are used for translation. Okay. So, these 3 degrees, we can see it like this. So, what you have is, you have got a triatomic molecule, more than 2 atoms is polyatomic molecule. Now, this molecule can move along x axis, along y axis, or along z axis. So, I need 3 degrees of freedom to be used for describing the translatory motion. So, I am left with 3n minus 3 degrees which can be used to describe the rotational and vibrational motion of the molecule. So, okay, so total are 3n, 3 go for translatory motion. After 3n minus 3, let us see what happens there. Now, the number of degrees of freedom for rotational motion or rotational modes will depend on the nature of the molecule. Okay. For example, if I look at a linear molecule has only 2 rotational degrees of freedom. That means it can rotate only in 2 possible ways which make changes. Let us see. Now, if you look at a molecule of this kind, a linear molecule, it is a diatomic molecule, you could take a triatomic molecule or any larger molecule you can think of. Now, if it is a linear molecule, that is important is the linear part of it. This can rotate in 2 possible ways, one around y axis, one around z axis, and any motion along x axis does not cause any change. Let me just explain it to you. Now, if I look at, so let me just take this pen as an example, let me think it to be a linear molecule. This linear molecule has got some atom 1, atom 2, atom 3, let me take carbon dioxide, it is carbon here, oxygen here, oxygen here. Now, suppose this molecule carbon dioxide rotates like this. This does not cause any change, this rotation is insignificant. As against that, the second possibility is it can rotate like this. That means, this molecule is coming towards you, then going away, that is one motion here. That means, if I am looking at, this is the plane of the molecule, this is perpendicular to the plane of the molecule, that is along y axis as shown in the diagram here. And second possibility is that this molecule can rotate like this in the plane of the molecule by itself. Okay. So, if I do like this, this again is a possible mode of rotation here. So, any linear molecule will have 2 degrees of rotational motion, rotational modes are required for that. As against that, if I have got a non-linear molecule, now this needs 3 rotational degrees of freedom along x axis, along y or z, it can move around all possible axes. So, that is the basic difference here. But what is the consequence of that? The consequence of that is we had a total of 3n minus 3 degrees of freedom. If the molecule is linear, so 2 go for rotational motion. If it is non-linear, 3 go for rotational motion. So, if I have got a non-linear molecule, in such cases we need 6 degrees of freedom for rotational and translation. Let us try to have a look at it. Now, suppose I have got a non-linear molecule. So, this needs 3 degrees for translatory motion, say along x axis, along y axis, along z axis, and also there are 3 rotational modes there, one around x axis, one around y axis, one around z axis. So, there are total of 6 degrees of freedom which are used for rotational and translatory motion for a non-linear molecule. It could be any atomicity. Now, so we are left with 3n minus 3 minus 2 or 3n minus 5 degrees of freedom for a linear molecule, and 3n minus 3 minus 3, or in other words we can say 3n minus 6 degrees of freedom for a non-linear molecule. So, and these are the ones which are vibrational degrees of freedom. That means, if a molecule is linear, it can have 3n minus 5 degrees of freedom for the vibrational motion. Non-linear molecule will have 3n minus 6 degrees of freedom. Let us take some examples. Let me before I take examples, let me quickly just give a summary of this. So, if a nature of molecule is linear or non-linear, translatory motion are 3 each, rotational 2 for linear, 3 for non-linear, vibrational 3n minus 5 here, 3n minus 5, 6 here, and total is 3n, which we just started with. Okay. So, that is the kind of degrees of freedom we have for a given molecule. Now, let me take an example. How do I calculate the vibrational degrees of freedom for a given molecule? Let me take the first case, a triatomic linear molecule, say AB2. The example could be carbon dioxide. Now, if you look at carbon dioxide molecule, so this is my carbon atom, there are 2 oxygen atoms here. So, n is equal to 3, shape is linear. So, the number of vibrational degrees of mode will be 3 into 3 minus 5, that is 9 minus 5, that gives me 4. So, carbon dioxide can have 4 vibrational degrees of freedom or 5 vibrational modes of 4 vibrational modes. Okay. Now, let us see what they are. So, the 4 vibrational modes of carbon dioxide are as follows. One is asymmetric stretching. Now, let me explain what are these modes. Let me first take asymmetric stretching, this one here. This is very simple. What it says is, now suppose I am looking at a carbon dioxide molecule. This is carbon atom, this is one oxygen, this is another oxygen. Just imagine carbon to be somewhere here. Okay. Now, what happens is, the symmetric stretching means this is my carbon oxygen bond, this is carbon oxygen bond. So, these 2 bonds are there. Now, suppose it so happens it vibrates in this fashion. That means, there is a simultaneously stretching or contraction, stretching, contraction, they happen simultaneously. This is a symmetric stretching. Okay. This is one mode of vibration. Second mode of vibration, the one I have mentioned earlier, that is antisymmetric mode of vibration. In this case, what happens is, again same molecule, this is my carbon here, there are 2 oxygens. It so happens that this bond is vibrating, that it is stretching, this is contracting. So, that is the kind of motion we have. Okay. When this expands, this contracts. Okay. I repeat. So, you have molecule like this. First motion was this simple one, both are stretching, both are contracting. In second case, this is stretching, this is contracting, this is stretching, this is contracting. So, this bond stretches, this bond contracts. That is the second mode of vibration called an antisymmetric mode of vibration. The third and fourth, there are 2 bending modes, and one bending mode is say this one is the easier one. This is bending in the plane of the paper as shown over there. So, this is my molecule of carbon dioxide, carbon, 2 oxygen again. So, that is the bending mode. So, this is the starting point, this bends like this, comes back, goes up, comes back, it is in the plane, that is in plane bending. Second possibility could be that is called as a out of plane bending, that is this kind of a thing. You have again the same molecule, this happens like this. That means it bends in a direction perpendicular to its molecular plane. Okay. So, there are 4 vibrational modes for carbon dioxide. Let us see which mode is going to be IR active, because we have to see that out of the different modes there, how many modes, all the modes may not be IR active. So, we have to see which modes of vibration is going to absorb IR radiation. Asymmetric stretching mode of vibration, we find that, now suppose look at this molecule, this is my carbon dioxide, normal molecule there. In this case, what happens is this bond has got compressed, this has got stretched, again the normal one here. So, this bond is compressing, this is stretching. So, this is a asymmetric mode of vibration. So, in this case, to begin with, a normal molecule of carbon dioxide has no dipole moment, but the moment you have got this kind of scenario, I mean this bond becomes larger than this one. So, the magnitude of dipole moment becomes different in 2 bonds and it does not cancel out. So, there is a net dipole moment there. That means, when a carbon dioxide molecule executes asymmetric stretching mode, it will lead to changing dipole, and that will be an IR active mode. That means, this molecule vibrating in this particular way is going to absorb IR radiation or is IR active. Now, if you look at symmetric stretching, so that is my normal molecule here. So, this is contracting, further contracting, expanding, further expanding, but it is happening is both the bonds are contracting or expanding in the same way. So, in none of these orientations the molecule has got any dipole moment. So, since there is no dipole moment, this mode is IR inactive. If you move to the vibration modes which are of bending nature, so this is in plane bending. So, this is a molecule here, if it bends like this, the dipole moment will be there, because now in this case, since they are opposite to each, directionally opposite, diagonally opposite, they are cancelling out, they do not cancel out here. So, there is a net dipole here, they are cancelling, here they do not. Okay. So, as this molecule vibrates in a bending, executes a bending mode, there will be a changing dipole that will lead to IR activity. Similarly, if I look at the out of plane bending, so it means this plus means the atom is coming towards me, minus means going away from me. So, that is the kind of mode I am talking about. So, here again, as in the previous case, this also is a IR active mode. So, to just sum up, what we have is, so we have got 4 modes of vibration for carbon dioxide, 3 of them happen to be IR active, 1 happens to be IR inactive. That means, this mode of vibration will not be observed. That means, if I look at the spectrum of carbon dioxide, I will be seeing this signal, I will be seeing signal because of this, I will be seeing signal because of this will not be observed. So, that is the meaning of there is a significance of talking about different vibrational modes for a given molecule. Let me take another example. Let me take second case. I have a triatomic molecule which is not linear, say water molecule. If I look at water molecule, I find that again n is equal to 3, but shape happens to be non-linear, and that gives me, using the formula, my degrees of freedom happen to be just 3. So, that means a water molecule can execute only 3 modes of vibration, and incidentally all the 3 modes of vibration happen to be IR active. So, you can just look at this is symmetric stretching, asymmetric stretching, and this is bending mode. So, they are very obvious here. So, in each one of these modes there will be a change in dipole. So, all the 3 are IR active. So, this we can continue with, we can take any example, try to work out how many modes are there, and then try to see that when you execute that mode of vibration, does it lead to any change in dipole moment or not. If it does, it is IR active, if it does not, it is not. It is as simple as this. Now, thus we can say that if I look at a spectra of a molecule containing n atoms, it is expected to have signals, the fundamentals, and the corresponding overtones for all the identified modes of vibration. That means, say for water molecule, so I would expect 3 signals for the 3 modes of vibration, and also there will be corresponding overtones there, first overtone, second overtone. So, there will be number of signals will be expected there, and larger the molecule, greater will be the number of bands. Obviously, there will be more number of vibrations there. So, there will be more signals there. That means, the spectra is going to be quite complicated one. And let me just show you a typical IR spectrum of a substance taken in solution phase. What I find is that the number of signals I am observing here are much more than what I expect for a simple, this is a simple molecule, this is a spectra of a very simple molecule, and the number of signals I am getting here are much more than what is predicted by the argument we have been giving so far. So, what is the reason for this? The reason for that is that in addition to what we have just talked about the fundamental, the first overtone, the second overtone. What we have is there are many more bands which come up there, and some of these happen to be, say, a combination band. So, what happens is the frequency of such a band is the sum of two interacting bands there. That means, you may have, say, suppose there are two fundamentals, say nu 1 and nu 2, or V 1 or nu 1 and nu 2. So, you can have a band coming at nu 1 plus nu 2. So, that is a combination band, or maybe we can think of a difference band as well. There is a possibility, they are observed. That is, the frequency of such a band will be the difference of two interacting bands. That means, the new difference will be equal to nu 1 minus nu 2. Suppose there are two bands there, say one is fundamental 1, fundamental 2. So, fundamental 1 plus fundamental 2, whatever the number comes out to be, I can expect a signal there, that is called as a combination band, or you can expect a signal at the difference of the two values there. In addition to that, sometimes we do observe what is called as a Fermi resonance signal. This is an interesting observation, because in some cases we do come across this. What happens is that you have number of vibration modes for a given molecule. There is one fundamental vibration mode, and in the very neighborhood of that, you may have an overtone of some other fundamental there. I mean, suppose a fundamental is at, say, 800. Okay. So, its overtone is expected to be somewhere around 1590, 1595, and suppose there is another fundamental at, say, 1600. So, this 1595, which is an overtone of another band there, and 1600, which happens to be a new fundamental there. So, these two bands can interact. When the two bands interact, they lead to signals which are beyond these two, because one signal becomes larger, one becomes smaller. There are many more things there which are beyond our this level of transaction we are doing there. But what is important to know is that in such cases also we get additional band there. So, what I expect now? What do I expect is that the spectrum which I get when I am doing an IR spectrum or a vibration measurement there, the spectrum will be quite complicated, and it becomes very difficult to interpret each and every signal I observe there. Okay. So, in such cases we will be talking about this at a later stage, that is how do I make sense of the kind of spectra I get in the IR spectrum I get. So, that means what is the significance of each one of them. We will try to do that maybe in the next session there. Let us sum up what we did today. What we did today is we started with recalling what we did in the previous session, wherein we talked about what is vibration spectroscopy. We talked about how do I consider a vibrating diatomic molecule to be behaving as a harmonic oscillator and things like that. That means what kind of energy expression I get, what is the energy level diagram, what kind of selection rules are there, what spectra does come out of there. So, having recalled that, we moved on to the spectrum expected from based on the anharmonic oscillator model. That means, if I consider the molecular vibration to be of anharmonic nature, what kind of spectra do I expect? That is the starting point for our today's session. Thereafter, we formulated expressions. This was very important here. That is, if I have a polyatomic molecule, what are possible modes of vibrations are there? That means, and we worked out that for a molecule which is linear, there are 3 n minus 5 degrees of freedom which are for vibrational modes, and for a nonlinear molecule it is 3 n minus 6. So, on the basis of this, we calculated the number of modes, the vibrational modes for some of the molecules like carbon dioxide, water, and we did work out, we ascertained their IR activity. For this to be done, what we did was we tried to look at each individually, each vibrational mode, and saw whether does it lead to any development of oscillating dipole moment or not. If it does, it happens to be IR active. If it does not, it is IR inactive. And then thereafter, we explained the origin of additional bands in the polyatomic spectra, because what happens is that we found that though our anharmonic oscillator allows a large number of transitions to be there, but they are not observed because the transition probabilities are very poor, or the population is very low. So, in such cases we expect a fewer number of signals to be there, but we actually observe is much larger than that. So, that actually happens to be because of additional bands which are like combination band, difference band, or Fermi resonance, etc. So, we did explain how do you come into picture there. Having done all this, In the next session, we will now try to see, as I just mentioned some time back, that how do I make sense of the spectra I get there. That means, if I have IR spectrum, how do I interpret that? What does it convey to me? That means, if I have a signal at certain places, what does it mean to me? So, that all I will take up in the next session. Thank you.